Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Sports Court as part of Consensus 2022 in beautiful Austin, Texas. My name is Adam B. Levine. I'm the former managing editor of podcasts at CoinDesk, and I'm now the host of the Markets Daily and creator of the Markets Daily show for CoinDesk. So today we have a great panel lined up for you entitled The World of Sports NFT Platforms. And it is, in fact, a very important trend that's been happening increasingly over the last number of years. So first up, we've got Jeff Tong, say hi. He's the VP of Operations and Strategy at HEIR. And then we've got Bree Richardson, who's the VP of Operations. I'm sorry, I did the introductions wrong. Jeff Tong is the CEO of Eternal. Bree Richardson is the VP of Operations and Strategy at HEIR. And BLM is the Director of Digital Licensing at GreenPark Sports. Welcome, everybody. So before we get started, we're just going to go around and let everybody get a chance to introduce themselves and provide some context about kind of where they sit in this conversation as, again, the world of sports meets the world of NFTs. So BLM, why don't we start with you?
Okay, let's do it. Hello, everybody. My name is Brian Lee McCloud. I go by my initials, BLM. I work for GreenPark Sports, and I am the Director of Digital Licensing. So I manage the league relationships. We have partnerships with the NBA, La Liga. We have partnerships with League of Legends North America and Major League Soccer, where I used to work before joining GreenPark Sports. We are a mobile app metaverse. So basically, we are character driven. You go in, you create your character who is wearing league merchandise, and you can actually have a digital watch party experience in the app itself. So it's a pleasure. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. Thank you, BLM. Jeff, you next?
Hi, everyone. I'm the founder and CEO of Eternal.gg. My background has been both in gaming and esports, and also a lot of DeFi stuff. So my previous company was doing ETFs and derivatives on Ethereum, and ended up selling that to Coinbase about 3 years ago. And after I started Eternal, we are essentially NBA Top Shot for esports and gaming. So we work with a lot of AAA game studios and Twitch influencers out there. And the goal here is to take their biggest highlights, for example, like a triple kill or a fail, and turn those into NFTs and sell to their fans. And more recently, we've been working with some sports leagues as well, such as FCF, Fan Control Football. And so we're starting to diverge deeper and deeper into sports as well.
Great. Thank you very much for that. Bree, how about you?
Hi, everyone. I'm Bree Richardson, VP of Strategy and Ops for HEIR. HEIR is an acronym for How Excellence is Recognized. It's a Web3 platform built for athletes to engage and build their communities in Web3. What we offer them is a customized hub, which we call the Huddle. The Huddle is where you can bring in all your fans into this intimate experience. You can interact with them with content that's never been seen on any other platform. It showcases the athlete as a human first and an athlete second. You have the ability to win rewards, and you participate as a co-owner. So that's a little bit about HEIR.
Great. Thank you very much for that. So the world has changed a lot. To be perfectly honest with everyone here, I'm actually not much of a sports person, but I'm very much an NFT person. I created some of the first projects back in 2014 that were non-currency uses of tokens. And for me, there was a moment a couple of years ago when NBA Top Shot was announced. That was this collaboration between the Flow blockchain, Dapper Labs, folks behind CryptoKitties, and the NBA, obviously. And it just felt like that was a moment when a lot of the questions that we really had about would we see real adoption of these technologies across mainstream brands suddenly was answered, and the answer was yes. And so this kind of created a moment in time, right, where there was an obvious opportunity there, and we saw many, many people sort of rush in to fill that niche. And I think that's really where we are. We're in kind of that Cambrian explosion period of NFT sports platforms, and really the intersection of these two groups is, on the one hand, incredibly powerful, and on the other hand, there's a lot of challenges that are associated with it, right? It's like you're not talking about JPEGs on the internet anymore. You're talking about sports memorabilia in some of the most important leagues and most culturally significant areas really in our world today. So I'd kind of like to start the conversation there, just from an overview standpoint. When you're looking at the space today, what do you see? What's the opportunity? What are the challenges? This is really going to be our conversation to go. But let's start with the opportunity. What do you think, BLM?
You know, for us, so my background, like I said, before GreenPark Sports, I was at Major League Soccer, where I managed the digital licensees. I managed the electronic artists. So basically, EA, the EA Sports relationship, and as you guys know, EA produces the game FIFA from a licensing perspective. So from a gaming perspective, we always look at the opportunity to educate our community. Within GreenPark itself, we know that the adoption rate, I think the stat is 1 in 10 own crypto in the United States, which is pretty low, but we use that as an opportunity to educate sport fans, right? So, for instance, we're thinking about having influencers come in as hosts in these digital watch parties, right? And within those watch parties, you're able to see your influencer that you follow online and have them teach you how to buy crypto, teach you how to buy NFTs, right? Take you through that journey, take you through that process. So we definitely don't shun any of our league sports fans to say, okay, if you don't know how to buy crypto, if you don't know how to buy NFTs, get out of here. You know, this is the matrix. You don't know about that. We very much use this as an opportunity to educate them on how to do that and bring them into the opportunity to increase the adoption. Okay.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Bree, how about you?
Yeah, I want to build off of what Brian was saying. We do our partnerships with athletes directly, and we have shoots with them where we record some of the content that's going to go on the platform. But it's also an opportunity to use those athletes to really break down crypto and NFTs and Web3s for the average consumer who wants to be their fan that doesn't understand what it takes to participate in this world. So I definitely agree with using influencers, using athletes. Another big thing for us is partnerships. So when we launched Lonzo Ball's NFT earlier this week, we did it with Just Don C, his brand, because that's a brand that the average user, consumer recognize, wants to participate in. And so you really merge those collaborations together with the athletes to really usher in that new set of users. So definitely agree.
Thank you. Jeff?
So I think the main problem with sports and NFTs right now, or NFTs in general, is everyone says sports NFTs are memorabilia, but if you study how memorabilia came about, like pricing didn't come before value, intrinsic value. And the problem right now is the price of these are way more overvalued compared to intrinsic value, right? When someone first caught a baseball in the game, that wasn't immediately worth $10,000. That was worth maybe $100 to the person next to them. And slowly over time, over the years, that gained more and more intrinsic value and more historic value. And then that's why it became $10,000, $100,000, right? So because of the offset and that balance, it's really alienating a lot of traditional sports fans and gaming fans. And that's why I'm super excited about this bear market. As the prices come down to some of the true realities, it becomes easier for the average fan to digest and kind of come on board. And also the tooling is getting much better, right? Paying with credit card, paying with fiat is like a very simple thing to do now. And as we see these things grow, eventually I do believe some of these NFTs is a future, and they will get to the value that we are seeing social media is going to be. But we kind of swapped which one should have come first. But I'm hoping that's all about to change right now.
Yeah, it's a really good point. When you're looking at these types of assets, a lot of times what you're seeing markets that are almost entirely speculative, right? And we hope that these markets will become unspeculative, will become real, and that value will be realized. But the kind of reality of it is that, to your point, when you look at something like Magic the Gathering or Pokemon, right? Like, these didn't start off as incredibly valuable things, and the people who bought the cards weren't speculators. I remember in the very kind of earliest days of sort of tokenized collectibles, and I do think about them as that, which was this game called Spells of Genesis back in 2014. And it was basically a fancy version of Peggle that, had blockchain characters that you could swap in there. And I was always struck because the people who bought the cards, and the cards cost hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, were always speculators, and they didn't care about the game. And I always felt like that undercut sort of the value proposition of using them in a game, because how do you get to that point? So let's actually start with you on this, Jeff. I mean, how do you solve that problem? How do you take something, now that everybody knows there's maybe money in this, right? How do you create that virtuous cycle that can then create sort of the value in a way that's really sustainable and not just purely speculative pyramiding? It's a hard question.
Yeah, so creating value is like part of it is on the company, part of it is on us to create that value. But like I mentioned before, a lot of it is truly your intrinsic value, right? If you take a high school not a good example, like a kindergarten basketball game, and you make a NFT moment from that, like that could be valuable to the parents, but it truly is worth however much it is to the person that wants to buy or purchase it, right? But a lot of the NFT projects now are trying to really force various utilities into the NFT to say this is worth this much, right? You can see that from a lot of celebrity, NFTs, like, hey, get this, get a Zoom session with me, get all these kind of things with me. But at the end of the day, a lot of these utilities are just, it's never going to make up to the price of what it should be. The only thing that is true, like, can grow infinitely in price is sentimental value, right? Intrinsic value that people actually, how much actually care about the item or the NFT. So I think, like, as a company builder, we shouldn't look to optimize the price and value of these NFTs. We should just look to how to really cater to the fans and give them something they love and really can really cherish, versus adding utilities. So say, oh, now that you can redeem for shoes, these are worth $500 at least, right? Really focus on what the fans care about and just tailor to that, and the value will come on its own in the future.
Yeah,
Great,
I would love to jump in on that one too. I mean, when it comes to value for us, as we're thinking about how we're pricing our NFTs or making them available to the public, we're just thinking about the rarity, right? So if it's 1 in 50, if it's 1 in 25, that fluctuates our pricing, obviously. But on top of that, it's just about creating those moments, right? Tapping into those moments. So we will be releasing NFT jerseys for La Liga over the next month or so. And we're really excited because those NFTs are tied to special moments literally on the field. Specifically, if there's a player who scores 3 goals in a match, those stats are tied to those NFTs. So that's another way to increase the value. I just wanted to jump in on that one.
So and those jerseys are NFTs, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. Bree?
Yeah, I think an important thing here is like transparency also to who's buying into your community. One thing that I've really appreciated around the plethora of projects that have launched and have NFTs is the more open you are in communicating what you have at that moment, the more receptive your community is going to be to it. And I think building off of the Pokemon example and different things like that, I don't think anyone was promised something that was crazy in value. So when I bought a Pokemon card and it was $1 and then it went up to being $1,000, it wasn't like I was buying for that 1,000 at that moment, right? And I think that's the thing too. Like, you kind of need to communicate the value for what you have today. If people believe in your brand, if they believe in the player, if they believe in what they're buying, then they're going to stick around for that journey, and you're not dragging them through it because of the fact that they think they're going to make some crazy monetary value off of it.
Yeah, I mean, okay. So kind of building off all of that, one thing that I think is worth saying is that, like a lot of people, I hear the word generational wealth a lot, right? I hear that people see this kind of financial opportunity and then they get involved with these things because they've seen it happen in other places, but history rarely repeats itself in a way that's purely linear that you can kind of predict like that. I mean, one thing that I've wondered about a lot is, from a functionality standpoint, a lot of the stuff that's in crypto really is just kind of like artwork or some type of, some type of like static piece of memorabilia that has very little to offer in terms of like actual functionality. So I mean, like, what will these things become? Are these game pieces? Are they collectibles? Are they something else entirely? Are they tickets to meet a person? I mean, like, where do you see kind of the value coming from? Let's start with you, Bree, first. Where do you see the value coming from them, not in terms of the money, but in terms of what's the point of owning one?
Yeah, I love this question. I think the answer here will vary a lot, probably amongst all of us, and any person can kind of come up with different packaging that's really going to resonate, again, with their community, what they're voicing as being most important. For us, we built a platform. Our platform is that hub for when you come in to have that intimate experience with our athletes, right? So you know exactly what you're getting when you purchase it. you're being able to get content that presents that athlete as being a human first. We've always wondered, like, what's your wake-up routine? How did you recover from that injury? How'd you change your jump shot? What is it like to play against your brother? You don't talk about that on Instagram. You don't talk about that on social media, but you can talk about that on air, right? And the other piece for us is, if I'm on any of these social media platforms today, I can't communicate with this person I may look up to and I have a lot of, aspiration for. But on air, we lean in a lot to co-creation. So for Alonzo, an example would be two things. One, we did a partnership with OK Bears where we're going to do a charity event in Lonzo's name where his holders will help pick what that event ends up being. The second thing is we're getting a jersey design between Don C and Lonzo that can be sold, and the community is going to help design that jersey. So again, it's very much leaning into co-creation, co-ownership, and a lot of different moments that you just can't create right now on different platforms.
Great, thank you, Bree. Jeff?
Yeah, so we're kind of cheating because a lot of our moments are gaming related, and utility, in a digital world is very easy for us. So we work with a lot of the game studios out there, and with them, we're able to essentially integrate these NFTs into the actual games themselves. So you can get the classic things as skins in the games or certain, mostly cosmetic stuff that doesn't actually affect the game itself. Other part that we're working with, for example, with FCF, which is a fan control football. It's a league where players vote on the next plays that the offensive lineup will do. So with these NFTs, you'll get special advantage from voting. So your votes will essentially mean more than average person's vote, depending on what NFT you hold, so on and so forth. So these are like very direct and simple examples. And as the game studios, as like sports evolve, there'll be more and more ways to integrate directly into how sports work, how gaming works. So I'm really excited to see what else we could do with these studios in the future.
Thank you. Gilliam?
Yeah, value for us. I just want to share a story. So I told you we work with League of Legends North America. There was a watch party that we had with their partner, Buffalo Wild Wings, after spring finals. And when I attended that event, I was amazed that all these gamers came into Buffalo Wild Wings and they were so excited that they had a real life watch party. And you would think with gamers, you're cool being in a house playing video games all day, but they were so happy to get out of the house and have this experience. And on top of that, obviously COVID happened, right? So we were all cooped up in a house for a while. So I think the value for us is really about creating a rewards path within our community to really say we have in real life experiences on top of being able to win prizes. It's just about having that physical connection as well, even though we're in a digital/virtual space.
Yeah, so let's turn the conversation for a second and stop thinking about the fans for a minute and start thinking about sort of the other supply side of the dynamic, right? Which is really the leagues, right? Which is the organizations that are out there. These are in many cases some of the biggest brands in the world. And again, I found myself a little surprised that they were some of the first to jump into this. I remember I pitched an executive at Zynga, right, the company behind Farmville, back in 2017, and he looked at me and he was like, but why would we ever want to do any of that? And so again, like, so much can change in just a couple of years, and it seems like it is changing really, really fast. So Jeff, let's start with you. Again, like, talk about kind of the relationship. What have your experiences been dealing with leagues, either on the esports side or the traditional sports side? What are they looking for to get out of this? And how do you even approach something like that in such a competitive environment?
Yeah, it's a great question. So for those of you who don't know, gamers absolutely hate NFTs and crypto. There's been a lot of scams, a lot of rugs in the gaming space, so it's left a very salty taste in their mouth. And now we're at a point where it's like essentially horde mentality. The moment you mention NFTs, everyone on Twitter just kind of like hates you. So game studios and streamers have to be very, very careful about how they launch their projects, right? And that makes our life very difficult to work with actual game studios. So our approach has been just very meticulously make sure our PR is launched properly, but at the same time, we built a very bottoms-up approach with regards to our brand and our relationship with the gaming community. What that means is we work with a lot of like streamers, and when the influencer talks to their community about Eternal, it's much more genuine, right? It's much more like, hey, this is me to you, and Eternal is just a platform that we use to process the NFT buying experience. Like the way we work, 100% of our proceeds that we make from NFTs all go to the streamers. So it's the same thing as donation. We don't take anything from that, right? And the only thing it does really give the fan that's viewing a collectible that they can hold on to for their entire life, right? To remember this streamer buy. So because of this bottoms-up approach of essentially building our brand, we're able to now go to the big AAA game studios and really talk to them, show them, prove that like, hey, you could build a valuable brand and monetize in the game space without everyone hating you. And actually for the gaming space, another fun fact is esports is super unprofitable. Like most teams make zero money from it. The teams that do, they're usually making off influencers and creators. So whenever you go to esports league, for example, Riot or Ubisoft, any of these guys, and say, hey, we can help you make money off your league, they're actually super excited about that, right? And the way we've been pitching it, essentially, NBA has traditional merchandising, which is jerseys, t-shirts, shoes, great. But for an esports league in a gaming digital world, what does native merchandise in that world look like? And the very simple solution is actually like digital goods, right? Digital jerseys, digital shoes, digital NFTs, essentially the best technology suited to do this for. So with that pitch, we've been very successful in talking to these guys. And with FCF, we've actually monetized their fans very well. The average NBA fan monetized for $155 per fan, and that's like NBA's top tier monetization. With FCF, the sports league we work with, we're able to monetize $96 per user, which is very comparable to NBA. And this is only across 2 months versus NBA is across the entire year, it's 165. So with these data points, we can show them, hey, like fans love this new technology we're bringing in, and we're able to monetize them, which means you can actually make money with your league and give that money down to all the esports teams that are part of this league. So, with these arguments we actually have been having quite a bit of success converting these leagues.
So a quick follow-up there. So my perception is that esports, because of the dynamics that you talked about, which is that there's real animosity towards collectible NFTs from many gamers out there, my perception is that esports is actually behind a little bit with traditional sports. That's a dynamic I didn't expect. Did it surprise you?
Totally. If you like traditional sports, people are so much more receptive, like NBA Top Shot, like NFL, all these other leagues, like they're much more receptive. They're used to the idea of memorabilia and collectibles much more, whether from their parents or whatever they collect. And I guess jerseys are just unnecessarily expensive anyways, right? You're buying this jersey, how much are they, like $300, $500, something like that? So they're already used to paying these pretty expensive prices. And when they see the NFTs, they're much more receptive. But I'll be very honest, like realistically, most people got into NBA Top Shot just to make profit at the end of the day, right? So how many people actually care? How many people actually want these NFTs? We will see in the next year or so. How many people actually stay around?
Yeah, it's an excellent point. BLM, you're next.
Yeah, I mean, I love the league's question because I used to work at the league, so I got some inside information. So like I said before, GreenPark, I was the one who was managing licensees, digital licensees, and trusting them with my brand, right? So it's really just about that trust. And that's really the thing about navigating our league relationships. We have several of them, and it's really just a matter of trust with their IP. So for us, I mean, the leagues trust us to be the professionals in our space. It's not a space that they currently really understand. As we all know, crypto, Web3, this is all a growing space. So there's a lot of difficulty just going through those conversations and educating them about what we're doing on a daily basis. So I would say, I mean, that was, I think, initially the more difficult thing is really just having the ability to move fast in this space, because as you know, it moves very fast, but also be able to simultaneously educate the leagues. And with that, what we specifically do is just make sure we have great communication with each of them.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Bree?
Yeah, for this one, I would say, if you saw some of the research before even NFTs really picked up a lot of steam, when it came to sports fans, people wanted more. They would be dissatisfied in the off season where there aren't games to go to anymore. And I think the league recognized that they wanted to continue to find ways to tap into consumers a lot earlier to kind of lengthen that journey out. We can't keep adding more and more games to the calendar, so you kind of need some other mechanism to do that. And I believe NFTs are a great way to kind of extend that consumer journey. And so if you think about the off season and players have a lot more free time, or you have a ton of content that never gets actually utilized in the arena, or they have these events that are done for charity moments. There's just so much that's left out there, and there's so much demand still left out there. And so I really think the league's in a wonderful position to kind of marry those two together.
Okay, so folks, this time has flown by. We have time for just one more question, believe it or not. It's crazy how fast these things go. So I kind of want you to put on your futurist hats for a minute here and talk to me either about something that you see coming, right? Something like what do you think is going to change? What matters, right? What are kind of the key moments that you think might happen or should happen to kind of take it there? Or alternatively, if you're not thinking about that, I mean, kind of what's a trend that you see right now that's rising? Like what are you particularly watching? And Brie, let's start with you for this last one.
Yeah, I would say a trend right now that I'm pretty excited about is it's actually, Brian, I think you kind of brought this up earlier, but it's like the mixing of Euro and IRL and finding that hub together, because at least I've seen a lot of success in that, really bringing people along that journey from Web 2 to Web 3. We did an activation in LA where we were at the Jumpman building, basketball court. Our holders were like decked out in like all Jordan brand clothing, and they had a pickup game against each other. And just to like see how much energy was there really showed you how much you could like take that further. And so one trend that I'm really excited about is just seeing more of those matching up of Euro, IRL, and kind of activating communities. So I think that's where we'll start to see a lot more spread and momentum.
Great, thanks, Brie. Jeff?
Yeah, so back in the early crypto days, you just have like ETH. That's all you have, right? And then people start building tools on top of these coins, right? If you look at NFT days right now, all we have are just NFTs as it is. And as people start building on top of ETH, you start staking, right? There's companies such as Staking.io that like do a lot of staking for tokens, and various tools started growing from there. And there's a lot of like bright young people starting to build on top of NFTs now. So instead of just holding and collecting something, I'm thinking in the future you can start lending it out. You can start, lend out 5-year apes to buy a house, those kind of things, and get it back later. And I think the financial side of it is actually very interesting as well. Of course, the thing I would hope for is just people all accept NFTs. No one hates them anymore. And it's just become a general like collectible that people can show off. And I think the last thing is like the metaverse side is super, super exciting, right? Once that really pops off, it's much, much more easier to see NFTs as a standard, as something that you flex every day, just like a car, right? So I'll let Brian talk more about that, but I'm super excited about that.
I feel like you both stole my answer. Both of you together collectively took exactly what I was going to say. You set me up. No, but I mean, so for me, it's definitely in real life experiences and the metaverse. And I have to go back to the moment when I started to believe in the metaverse. I'm a big gamer. I'm Grand Theft Auto all day. I will be Grand Theft Auto for life. And when they started to allow me to buy a nightclub in West Hollywood and bring real life DJs in, I was like, there's something going on here. You know what I mean? So like to continue those experiences where you feel like you're immersed in them, and translate reality from in real life to the digital virtual world is just really where I'm focused and really where I'm excited to see it's trending.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for listening to this session. We've had BLM, Jeff Tong, and Brie Richardson up here. Big round of applause for everybody. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.